This is the official podcast of the Oakland Raiders. Here's your host, Eddie Paskal.
And we are back in the lab. Eddie Paskal, producer Trav, the official Raiders podcast. And man, take a deep breath and just exhale, because it has been a crazy couple months. From hiring Coach Gruden in January to rebuilding the roster through the draft and free agency, and then the offseason workout program, and it's been a lot. And so we have just now wrapped up the 3-day mandatory minicamp, officially signaling the end of the 2018 offseason workout program for the Oakland Raiders. And man, yeah, like I said, it's been a lot. But I always say, we've wrapped up minicamp now. People are so locked into minicamp, right? Oh, who's lining up where? Who looks good? Who doesn't look good? Oh man, this guy's getting more run than player X. And I get that. Look, it's easy to get caught up in. It's Raider football. It's finally exciting to see these guys out on the field doing their thing. But I also caution just the tiniest bit. It's June. All right? It's the middle of June. We're still 6 or 7 weeks out from going to training camp. And that is when the real battles start. So really, you go into minicamp, and the goal is to get some reps, you get more familiar with the system. These coaches and players who, like we said, haven't been together all that much this year, as long as they're building that familiarity, building that trust, that's a win. And more importantly than any of that, nobody gets hurt. As long as nobody gets hurt, that is a win. So the past 3 days was a win for the Silver and Black, an absolute, unequivocated win. Coach Gruden said as much when he kind of wrapped everything up, put a bow on the offseason program yesterday. He said, look, I'm really pleased with the progress this team has shown on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, the special teams portion of the game too. Speaking of that, this battle between Eddie Pinheiro and Giorgio Tavecchia, once we get to camp in a month or two, is going to be really exciting. But, he said, look, I'm happy where we're at. Do we have a ton to get better at? Do we have a ton to improve on and tighten up and feel better about it before week 1? Absolutely we do. But at this point in June, we're healthy, we're ready to rock. We're now going away, having a little break, going to take some time for our family, for our friends, to get our bodies, our minds, get spiritually ready for the grind of 2018. But yeah, we're good. We're at a good place right now. And hearing Coach say that, just seeing him, the way that he kind of emoted that, he expressed that, it's hard not to be excited for heading into training camp now. And I know that this has been as busy and crazy as a 6 months as this span has been. It's been a lot of fun. It has been such a blast, and you can feel the energy around this team. You can feel the excitement. You can feel these guys ready to gear up, and that there's something special, building here at 1220 Harbor Bay Parkway. And, at this point, like I said, 6 weeks, and then we're back in it. And, kind of going back to minicamp for a little bit, actually even going back a little further than that, since Coach came back to the sideline, he has gone out of his way on multiple occasions to say, look, this place, like me, values the history of the Silver and Black. And he said, I want former players to feel welcome here. I want guys who have worn this uniform, who have won Super Bowls, who have been to the playoffs, who've won division titles. I want them here. I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel empowered to come to the building, to share what they've learned with our young guys. And we had a perfect example of that this week. Rich Gannon, one of the, statistically anyways, one of the best Raiders quarterbacks of all time, obviously a fan favorite, a guy who took this team to some of the highest highs that they've seen in the past 2 decades. He was in the house. He was with Coach Gruden. He was with Derek Carr. He was working with the quarterbacks, as you can imagine, primarily. But he had a chance to come in and kind of see what's going on. And not only kind of see what's going on, but, kind of share his 2 cents too. He spoke to the team before the final day of mandatory minicamp, gave a really passionate, empowered, interesting speech about what it takes to be a winner, what it takes to, to give everything you have for the guy next to you, to get to where you want to be as a player and as a team. And it was, it's good to see Coach kind of doubling down, I should say, on what he said earlier this year about guys being welcome. And we had a chance to sit down and catch up with Rich for a couple minutes, and he gave us some really, really insightful comments about a ton of stuff from Derek Carr to the battle, to be Derek's backup. And we talked time and time again about the importance of depth in the NFL. And Rich kind of shared a little bit about that. The addition of a guy like Jordy Nelson, of a Martavis Bryant, and what that's going to do for this offense, what that's going to do for Amari Cooper. And then just kind of the culture around here and what's happening with Gruden back in the mix. So here's our conversation with Rich Gannon here on the Official Raiders podcast. Obviously here the past 3 days, got to take in minicamp. How did this whole situation come about with you being out here?
Just have had conversations with John. I want to be around a little bit more, and I just feel energized just being around the players, being in the meetings with Coach Gruden and Greg Olson and Brian Callahan and getting the quarterback tip sheets. It just brought me back to those years where I was here as a quarterback with John and the players and the coaches and out of practice. It's been a great week, and I'm excited. I'm excited for this football team, and I'm really excited for Derek Carr. I came away, you feel like you know the player a little bit, you know his game, but I got a chance to really watch him interact with John. He's all football. He loves it. He loves competing. But his aptitude, to me, was really impressive. His ability to process a ton of volume and information and responsibility in the huddle at the line of scrimmage, they're going to put a lot on his shoulders, and he can certainly handle it.
Talking about Derek, obviously he's going to, this team's going to go as Derek goes, and it's only been a couple days that you've had a chance to watch him, but you mentioned just kind of his aptitude and his understanding of the offense. What has really stood out to you when you take a look at what he's done the past 72 hours?
I think his overall command, keep in mind they've only been together a couple months. I think his overall command of the offense, of the system, of the tools that he has in his toolbox to get in and out of plays, to change protections. Keep in mind, if you really go back and study Derek Carr, there's been a lot of change around him. You know what I mean? Had Greg Olson as his coordinator his first year. He's had, I think, 3 or 4 different coordinators in 4 seasons. That's hard. And he's been able to come out, he's been able to survive it, and he's got a guy now that's going to call plays, that's going to have him as prepared as any player in the league. And that's the thing I tried to impress upon Derek. He's going to be so much further along on game days. He's going to have a better anticipation of what's coming. I think the communication between him and John is phenomenal. And that's the one thing that's impressed me. The other thing that's impressed me is his athleticism. He's a lot more. He's got better feet than I anticipated. He can run with the football. He can escape and make plays, extend plays. So I think you'll see more of him moving around a little bit, some by design and some by out of necessity.
You mentioned kind of that change that Derek's gone through, it seems like, each year here. And I think John's his 4th head coach now, heading into year 5. Now, finally, with some consistency in the playbook and the guy calling the plays and all that stuff, how beneficial is that going to be for a quarterback who, while he's going into year 5, is still very much rising in this game?
Yeah, he's a developing player, and he's already been to Pro Bowls and those type of things. So I just think that the stability around that position is absolutely vital. And I think with John being here, John's not going anywhere. I think that's great for Derek. I think John is maybe the best play caller in the game. People say, well, he's been away from the game 10 years. I would tell you that he really hasn't been away from the game in 10 years. He's been down in that little laboratory of his down in Tampa, grinding away, studying, visiting with coaches, studying schemes, studying college players. So I think he's got a really good sense of what he wants to do. I think he's put together an outstanding staff. You look at the assistant coaches, and I think the guy that's really going to benefit is Derek. But I just think the stability around him, the continuity, the consistency, everyone's being on the same page, the communication's going to improve, and I think that'll really help a guy like Derek Carr.
In talking to a bunch of people since Coach has come back, the one thing that's been a consistent theme is that it's going to be a learning curve for Derek. He's going to get a lot of stuff thrown at him, especially this first season. As a guy who's been in the shoes that Derek's in right now, what should he really expect from his first full season with Coach Gruden?
I don't really worry about Derek. It's not always what Derek can handle. It's what the other 10 players in the huddle can handle. The issue is not going to be too much volume for Derek Carr. The issue more often than not will be, is it too much for the offensive line and the receivers, the skill players? It's not going to be too much for Derek Carr. He's a smart guy. He loves football. He's had a ton of experience. I think the situations that he's gone through early in his career with all the changes with the systems and terminology and play callers and stuff like that, and yet he's been able to survive it and come out of it and it's still in one piece. I think says a lot about his toughness, his ability to overcome adversity. So I just think that it is year one in the system. I think they'll continue to add. This system will continue to evolve as John learns more about Derek and what he's good at and what he likes. But I think they're well on their way to becoming very familiar and very comfortable with one another.
I mean, you're no stranger to coming to Raiders practices, obviously coming out as an analyst. But, it feels like there's a different kind of vibe, a different energy with Coach Gruden and his staff here. Is that something that you picked up on at all?
No question. I said to the players this morning, I don't know that there's a coach in football that I've been around that has more energy and passion than John Gruden. The other thing I would tell you is that he was blessed with some really good DNA, some really good genes from his mom and dad. And one of the genes that he has that I think is unique, and I think it's the reason he and I hit it off so well, is for whatever reason, John feels like he has to prove himself every day of his life. I think when he comes in here, he's the head football coach. It doesn't matter to him. He feels like he's got to prove something. He feels like he's got to prove to the defensive staff that he's got a great system of football. And I think it's what drives him. I think it's what motivates him. I think it's why he and I had such symmetry and a great rapport with one another, because I think I'm wired the same way. I really feel like I just, every day I came in here as a player, I had to grind and really work at my craft to become a good player, to earn the respect of my teammates and coaches, and I felt like I had to do that every day. John feels that way. I think Derek Carr has some of that same DNA. I just really believe that he feels like it's all out there for him. He wants it all. He wants to be a world champion. He wants to be the best in the business. And I just think that if you can match John's enthusiasm, his attitude, his tempo, his hunger, his passion, then I think good things will happen.
You mentioned that you spoke to the team this morning, kind of kicking off this final day of the off-season workout program. What was really your message to them, and what did you want to get across to them before they go away now for the next 6 or so weeks?
I think there's a couple different themes. I think the big one was I really want them to start taking care of one another, start really caring for one another. And I think accountability to me is a big thing. If you come into this building, I always said that the last thing I wanted to do was disappoint John Gruden as a player. I knew how hard he worked during the week to put me in a position to be successful on Sunday. The last thing I wanted to do was go out and play poorly. Last thing I wanted to do was have a bad year, a bad couple seasons, and get my position coach fired. And so if you care for those people, and they care for you, you care for one another, I think great things can happen. And I tried to impress upon the players, this is a tremendous staff. This whole building is filled with great people. And when you start caring about each other that way, I think great things will happen. And I tried to tell the players that they've got to take ownership in this operation. You have to, a good football coach hands the leadership of the football team back over to the veteran players. What are they going to do with that? And with that comes enormous responsibility. And I just tried to impress. I said, who are the leaders going to be in the position groups? Who are the leaders going to be on the defensive side of the ball? Who are the leaders going to be, on the offensive side of the ball? And who's willing to mentor the young players? And if we can start to do those things, then I think some great things will happen. And I also try to tell them that when John came here, it didn't take long for us to get things turned around. My first 4 years, we won 3 AFC West titles, went to 2 AFC Championship games, went to a Super Bowl. It doesn't take long if you got the right people and everyone's committed to doing the same type of work. And I think it won't be very long before John gets this thing headed in the right direction.
I mean, you talked about just the leaders, and obviously Derek, one of the, if not the leader of this team, but as we've seen year in and year out, that depth is so crucial in the NFL, particularly at the quarterback position. And I know you've had a chance to look at all the quarterbacks right now. There's 3 of them on the roster, and Coach said behind Derek, it's an open competition essentially between EJ and Connor. I mean, just what have you seen from the 2 of them? Granted, they don't get a ton of run during practice, but just what do those 2 guys bring to the table?
Both talented players, both have the size that you love at the position, both can push the ball down the field. I think the challenge that both of them have is just getting reps and getting experience in the system. And unfortunately, with the collective bargaining agreement the way it is, you don't get to spend as much time with those players that you normally would. You don't have the 6-week quarterback school, and you're not spending 180 hours in the classroom setting. You're not afforded that opportunity, and so it's a lot of catching up that has to happen on their with both of them, and they're not getting the reps out on the practice field because in the mini camps, you only have a limited amount of reps. So who are you going to give them to? Well, this is Derek's first year in the system. Let's get Derek as many reps as he can get. And so then you struggle finding out more about Connor and EJ. But they're good players that need experience in the system, need to be coached hard. And one of those two players has to really step up at training camp and take advantage of the opportunity and really establish themselves as a guy that the team can count on in the unlikely situation something were to happen to Derek.
You know, I think this team has been built in such a way where Derek is going to be protected and he's going to have a lot of options on the outside and what to do with the ball in terms of offensive weapons. And, you know, key to that is Amari Cooper, right? And you look at Coop, all the talent in the world, but, you know, kind of a struggle for him last year, right? After these 2,000-yard, you know, blockbuster season, it kind of comes back to earth a little bit. As a quarterback, do you feel like you have to say something to him to get him back on track, or do you kind of just let him work through whatever he needs to work through to get back to where he knows he could be?
I think you have to get to know him and what, you know, how he's wired and what, you know, how he responds to coaching and play calls. And I think John's in the process of finding out. They put a couple routes in for him the other day, some individual cuts that he just was terrific with. So you know that there's going to be some design. Like I think what's unique about John's system of football is there were certain plays in for Tim Brown, certain cuts. There were certain plays in for Jerry Rice. There's going to be certain plays in the offense for Amari Cooper, for Jordy Nelson, for Martavis Bryant. And so I just think that's a unique group. I think getting Jordy Nelson in this building is going to be great for that young wide receiver room. He's a veteran. He's a professional. He does things the right way. And that's going to rub off on everybody. But I just think Amari Cooper is such a talented player. You just watch him out there run routes. His size, his speed, his ability to separate, his power, his ability to go high point of football. So I think it's just, you know, getting him off to a good start. I think that's always important, getting his confidence going early, and then just watching him flourish in a system that I think is cut out for him.
You know, Coach, since he came back, has really put an emphasis on getting former players, you know, guys who have such a rich history with this program back in the building to kind of impart their wisdom on, you know, this next generation of Raiders. And now to kind of see it here in the flesh, you're back, you're, you know, taking in this 3-day minicamp. Is it kind of nice to see, especially at a place like this where there's such an emphasis on the history?
It is, and I think that, you know, John had, although he wasn't here long enough, he made a huge impact in this building. And I think people saw the level of professionalism, the attention to detail, his work ethic, his passion for the game. I think it rubbed off on a lot of people. I know if it weren't for John Gruden, I wouldn't be sitting here today, you know. And so I think players appreciate that. I think sometimes players have a chance to look back and say, I wish I could have done more at the time. But I think it's great that Johns recognizes that people can come in and be mentors to young players and help them out a little bit. And it's good to see guys like Ricky Dudley in the building, and, you know, Napoleon Kaufman and Zach Crockett out on the practice field, and guys that, you know, I know other guys that have come through here, and Charles Woodson, and, you know, guys that the players really look up to and respect and admire.
You know, it seems like each year, time and time again, the rumors of Gruden's return to the sidelines would come. Were you surprised when this was the year, this was the situation that got him out of the booth back on the sidelines?
I had some conversations with him and Mark Ortega and some different people, and just, you know, I got the sense that, I mean, even from really the first year that John was out of football, I was convinced that he was going to get back in at some point. I just think he thinks of himself as a football coach. It's what he does. He loves football. He wants to be around it, and he wants to be calling plays and coaching players, and he just wasn't going to get that same fix in a broadcast booth. And so I was surprised, quite frankly, that he did television as long as he did. He was very good at it. But when this opportunity presented itself, and there had been a lot of other opportunities, and I think even, you know, the Tampa Bay situation was an interesting, you know, because John was living in Tampa, and I think there was interest on the part of the Buccaneers. But I just think in his mind he felt like there was some unfinished business here in Oakland. I think he's got great respect for Mark Davis. I know he loves the area. I know he loves Raider fans. And I just felt like he felt like there was some unfinished business here. He got traded away. He was building what was going to be a really special team for a long time. And he's got a young quarterback that's got him really excited about football again. And he thinks he can get it done again and win here big time. And I think he can as well.
that unfinished business theme has kind of been something that he's come back to. But he said a couple times, he goes, I kind of grew up here as a coach, as a man, and it seems like everything's kind of coming full circle now for him to come back and, like you said, finish what he started.
He was one of the youngest coaches in football when Mr. Davis hired him, and he cut his teeth here with the Raiders, and he had an unbelievable opportunity, and he took advantage of it. He did some great things. When I first got here in '99, it was John's second year, and we were still developing a system of football. We were still trying to build structure and consistency with our football team, and we're in the process of turning over the roster and getting in the right type of players that were going to be good players for us for a long time. And so that was taking a while, but we were getting the results. In our second year, I think we went 12-4 and went to the AFC Championship game. And so I think he's a much different coach. I think he's much more mature. I think he's got much more experience. I think that he's got a better vision of what he wants to try and accomplish. And I don't think it's going to take very long. I really don't. I think they've got a good roster. I think they'll continue to develop the roster in some key areas. But this business is tough when you don't have a trigger, and they've got a trigger. The guy at quarterback is a pretty special player, and I think John realizes that, and I think some great things are going to happen on offense.
And a huge shout out to Rich Gannon. I really appreciate the time. Really appreciate him being so candid with us and really sharing some, what I thought anyways, were really insightful little tips of the trade and things that he's looking forward to seeing in 2018. So, you get Rich Gannon on a podcast. That's a win, right? That's a W. But for you, Raider Nation, we got more, baby. We have so much more. So we segue out of Rich and we bring in not only the general manager of the Silver and Black, Reggie McKenzie, but his brother Raleigh. So let me set this up for a little bit. Reggie and Raleigh, obviously now in the front office here with the team, in their own right, were pretty darn good players. Went to Tennessee, then obviously both had really solid NFL careers. Raleigh winning a couple world championships, Reggie later winning a world championship with the Packers. But they have a really cool deal coming down this weekend, actually. They're being inducted into the Tennessee Hall of Fame. So you look at this Hall of Fame, and there are people from all walks of the sports world, super accomplished people, guys, people like Eddie George, Penny Hardaway, Darrell Waltrip, one of the best NASCAR drivers of all time, and Pat Summitt, too. This is really a who's who of Tennessee sports history. And Reggie and Raleigh are going in. They're going in a ceremony tomorrow. And we thought, what a great chance to sit down with both Reg and Raleigh, talk about their childhood, what it was like growing up in the McKenzie household, and what it's been like not only, growing up together, playing together, but now, after their playing days are over, now getting to work together in the front office. We got a chance to sit down with them, hear their story, and it was a really interesting kind of chance to see a different side of Reggie and Raleigh. So much we hear about the player evaluation and managing the salary cap, and while all that stuff is super important, look, I know it's really important, it was really cool to kind of see that other side of Reg and to talk to him more as a person and not a general manager. So with that being said, Reggie and Raleigh on the Official Raiders podcast. Reggie McKenzie, Raleigh McKenzie, the two of the newest members, I should say, of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. That's a pretty cool deal. So Reg, when did you find out that you guys were going to be going into the Hall of Fame?
Oh man, it was early this year in January. We got a call to inform us that we've been selected. It was a quick call, and to congratulate us. And one of the guys that's on the committee there, whom I had worked with at the University of Tennessee. He was assistant AD at the time, and he's on the Hall of Fame committee. So he gave me a call, and it was an honor, that's for sure.
You look at some of the names that are in this Hall of Fame, right? And here's a couple: just Pat Summitt, Penny Hardaway, Eddie George, Steve Spurrier. That's a who's who of not football but every sport. Is it kind of a trip seeing your name now, included with those Tennessee legends?
Yeah, it really is. Because you stated the names, even some of the guys we're going in with. It's one of those deals. Hall of Fame is the Hall of Fame at any level. We both been inducted to the Knoxville Hall of Fame, and now to the State of Tennessee Hall of Fame. It's an honor, but not only that, it's a sense of accomplishment.
Raleigh, does it make it any more special that you guys are going in together, part of the same class?
It is. It's when you like we got drafted the same year, not the same team, but a high honor like the Hall of Fame, prestigious in the whole state of Tennessee. It just kind of magnify all your accomplishments and some of the success that you have, and it's definitely a great to be in unison in that. So that in itself, coming from the same family is a great honor.
So talking to two of the most prestigious members of the Austin East high school family in Knoxville. So, Rez, what were those games like in high school? I mean, what's it like? I imagine it's similar to like that Texas football kind of feel playing down in Tennessee.
Well, yeah. We, especially our neighborhood net school at Austin East, it was Friday nights was big. And our team was small. Even though we played at a higher level, we were small in numbers. So we ended up playing both ways. So we playing offense and defense, and so we played linebacker. We lined up side by side, on defense and offense. He was a fullback, and believe it or not, I was an offensive lineman, even though he was bigger. But we that was some fun times back then in high school.
Both of you guys obviously after that chapter of your life ends, go to Tennessee, do some great things for the Volunteers. So did you guys make a conscious decision to go together, or is that kind of just how the cards fell?
We were going together. That was everybody that recruited us knew that, and so that was. We didn't really talk about it much. We just knew it. We were gonna go in together.
So did you guys committed at the same time then?
Yeah, we committed because Johnny Majors came over to the house, and we put our name on the line the same day. So it was a big time decision, and we talked about different schools, but it's kind of understood that we all was gonna be together and stay home, so our parents can have an opportunity to watch a lot of our games.
I mean, if it wasn't going to be Tennessee, going in the Wayback Machine, where do you think it would have been?
Well, if it was up to him, it would have been Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma, Barry Switzer, they had it all down there. They had the facilities, they had the wow factor. So, and of course, at that time, they had good teams.
Growing up, obviously high school, and then when you guys get to college, how competitive were you guys? Obviously competitive in the sense of, you're, two elite athletes, but in terms of just going against each other and can I do out him here or whatever, were you guys really competitive? Do you go back at it?
Why don't you ask anybody who knew us back in the day? It was highly competitive. It was not only football. You played basketball, and we threw the shot put and discus and track, and we played baseball. We were highly competitive. I think that's what drove us to be as good as we are, really. We want to outdo each other, and we both were pretty good in just about most of the sports that we played. So it was always a competitive situation, even at home. We were highly competitive, put it that way.
So who's the better basketball player between the two of you?
No,
You asking the wrong question. We both gonna say you ought to get a third party for that one.
Just got to bring out the footage. That's what we got to do.
So, Raleigh, you moved from linebacker to playing offensive line in Tennessee, similar to the switch that Khalil's making. So have you had any Uncle Lee advice to Khalil going through this process? Again, I know it's a little bit different, but
Right. Well, yeah, I've definitely talked to him just throughout this whole draft process. Just kind of opened his eyes up, making sure he understood the opportunities that may be there on the offensive line. So he understood going in, and I'm glad that he's able to get a chance to do that, you know, in KC. But yeah, I had a chance to kind of go through some minor technical things, and just talking to him, man, and just told him, you know, just like whatever position, just go hard and learn as much as you can, and that's what he's doing right now.
I know, Reggie, you said it was kind of a bittersweet moment for you, but just as a dad, is it nice to have Raleigh here to kind of give your advice to Khalil, kind of going through a very similar transition?
No question. Because from the standpoint when they drafted him and they told him right off the bat that he's going to play offensive line for him, and Raleigh had been in discussions with him, and so I felt comfortable that he can always, if he got any question, he knows he can go to his uncle and just talk to him about anything, and that's comforting from a dad, you know. So he loves football. He's always wanted to be in the NFL, but I don't think it doesn't matter if he's playing offensive line or D line. He just wants to play, and the fact that he got his uncle to help him go through this transition is pretty cool from my standpoint. You know, just talk to your uncle about that, because I'm not going to try to help you get a whole lot better. You know, just in case the Raiders versus Kansas City is upon us at some point.
Always big games.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. So 1985, you guys get drafted, and such an exciting, you know, moment for the two of you. But also, I imagine kind of a bittersweet one, because it's the first time in your football careers where you're not playing on the same team. What was that kind of whole situation like, those first couple of days when you realized, like, oh, you know, we're both kind of achieving our dreams, but doing it in different places now?
It was odd, you know, but we knew, you know, the probability of us getting drafted by the same team were slim, but we knew that it would probably come to that. But I think it was probably harder on our parents, you know, because they so used to cheering for one team, and it wasn't the case anymore. You know, you got to cheer for two teams now, you know, as far as they're concerned. So it was, but it was fun as far as the whole process, but just so have it that we couldn't been so far apart. You know, he's on one coast and I'm on the other. You know, I go straight to LA and he going to DC. I mean, that's quite a haul.
I was looking it up, and I think you guys only played each other once, right? 1986, I think, is the one time. Do you guys remember that game at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was actually it was in DC. Yeah, and the Redskins did win that game.
Yeah,
once again.
Yeah, they got us.
Yeah.
They got us. The thing about it, I just remember it being a close game. It was a defensive game. I think they got a big play on us, ended up scoring a touchdown, but they got us, and we played against each other preseason, but
rookie year.
Yeah, but it's, of course, he rubbed it in, and you know, we had family there, we had people there, and so that was a pretty good moment for us. You know, the fact that our parents could just drive up to DC and go to that game and see us both play, so that was cool.
Whose jersey were they wearing? I got to ask that one.
They was neutral.
Neutral?
They was neutral, but they was on the. It was since I got them tickets. They was you know amongst the Redskin fans. So.
Yeah, but they had both jerseys, so that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So you guys have been reunited twice then. First when the Packers signed Raleigh in '99, and then again, Reg, when you became the general manager here in 2012. How unique is it that you guys have been able to have kind of been able to go on this professional journey together in a lot of aspects? That's something that not a lot of brothers get to do.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the opportunity when we got to Green Bay, that was pretty cool. You know, that was towards the end of Raleigh's playing career, and I just getting into my post NFL playing career. So that was pretty cool when our kids were young, and it kind of brought them together for a little bit. And since I've taken this job and being able to get this knucklehead, on board, it was you're right. It is cool. It is cool to work together with your brother, and more than that, the bond that we got as being a twin too we halfway get along too, so that helps.
Is Reg easy to work with?
As long as he, make sure he come to me for top decisions. I'm still the, he got the title, but I'm still the brain trust, and of the two. So no, it's good. It's good working together, man, and just by growing up together and knowing each other the way we do, we can kind of sense things and kind of say things without saying things, if you will. So it's been great. So hopefully we can continue this journey and bring the Raiders to the post where they need to be, and get on top of that throne and stay there for a long time.
Speaking of that throne, you guys have 4 Super Bowls combined, but you don't have one together. How great would that be? How much of a cherry on top of a football career, a life in football, would it be to win one here for the Raiders, doing it together?
Oof, that'd be great. That'd be great. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, yep. We got to make it happen. So that's the plan right now. That's one of our goals, and that's to not only bring a championship to the Raider Nation, and this team starting now, that's our quest. But for the family, it'll be cool to hold that trophy up together. We're working hard for that. Trust me.
Reggie, Raleigh McKenzie going into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame June 16th. Congratulations, guys, and I guess we'll see you down there, huh?
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So yeah, there they were, Reggie and Raleigh, the 2 newest members of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. So look, that's going to do it for us. It's the end of the off-season program. Mini camp is over, and so we're going to go away for a little bit. We're going to recharge the batteries. We're going to get back in the lab. We're going to work our kinks out, rest our minds, body, spirit, the whole deal, and we'll be ready to rock better than ever come training camp. That being said, I would keep an eye out. I don't want to say too much. I can't officially say too much yet, but we do have some pretty exciting things cooking in the podcast realm. So keep an eye out. That said, make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. You know what to do. But yeah, it's been a great off-season program. It's been a busy off-season program. And we're looking forward to catching up with you guys in a couple weeks. So enjoy your summer, be safe, and we'll catch you guys soon.
Thanks for listening to the official podcast of the Oakland Raiders.